All right, there we go. All right, guys, we are live. This is the Difference Makers podcast. I'm here today with Nikolaj Rønnow. Nikolaj is NWR Productions on Instagram. He is a field producer for CrossFit. So he's a content creator and producer for CrossFit this season. So, Nikolaj, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, man.
And I hope I said your name correctly. I know we were just talking about this.
It's close enough. Close enough.
Let's hear the. Give me the real pronunciation.
Nikolaj Rønnow. Yeah.
I'm I'll work on my name.
Yeah, you got the letters right. So that's close enough.
Tell me a little bit about what you've been up to this season. I know you've been traveling a lot after not traveling at all. So catch us up on a little bit about what you do and some of your travel.
Well, this season started, and I remember vividly, this season started the day before Christmas when my old boss from CrossFit said, like, hey, you got 5 minutes to say Merry Christmas and stuff? I'm like, yeah, sure. Let's jump on a call. And he had a little bit more to say. He said, like, you want to come on full time for 8 months? I was like, yeah, okay. And so basically, he wanted me to fly around Europe and capture stuff for the company working for CrossFit. It's called Hamilton Road Productions. So we do all the like miles to Madison. I don't know if you've seen those on YouTube.
Yep.
They do all the games coverage, basically all of it throughout the season. And he said, like, I know the season's going to be strange because there's no real, we don't know where we can go and where we can't go, but we'll make it work. So then I started traveling. I did some local stuff in Denmark with my friend Andre Hude, who took 15 at the CrossFit Games. But my first international travel was I went to visit Jonna Koski and Mikko Salo in Finland. And I got to Finland and I got all the paperwork done and I was allowed to enter. I came up to the border patrol, whatever it's called in Finland. And like, yeah, you're not going to get in, buddy. So a cop assisted me downstairs and took me to a holding cell where I was being contained for like 4 or 5 hours. And they took my phone, they took my bags, and I'm just waiting there. That was my first travel. I basically gotten thrown in airport prison. And then he came back and said, we're going to put you on the next flight back to Denmark. And he wrote me the whole testament of why I couldn't enter. And it was... he said there's only like doctors, police officers, nurses, like vital personnel that can enter the country.
Yeah.
And he went on, read the list, and he's a journalist. And I was like, wait, I'm a journalist. And he says, no, you work for a media company. You work for a marketing company. I said, no, I work for CrossFit. That's a media company. And I showed him an old article with Greg Glassman, where he basically, the title is CrossFit is a media company. It's like an old one on CrossFit Journal.
Yeah.
And he took my phone again and he left. He came back an hour later and says, all right, you can come in.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, got my bags and went to the hotel. And I texted my boss at CrossFit, says, you need to call me right now. He says, I'm in a meeting. Are you okay? You're not in prison or anything? And it just texted him, not anymore. And he called me like 10 seconds later.
So they wanted to detain you just because, I mean, obviously at that time people weren't traveling and weren't allowed into the countries, but because of it's funny too, because CrossFit went and made a bunch of steps to say, hey, we're not a media company.
Yeah.
Letting go of all the media stuff.
So if you look at it, it says like it's a marketing sports company. I don't know, but basically Greg Glassman saved my ass 15 years ago somehow. So but after that, travel was easier. I been to Spain a couple of times, been to Switzerland with Adrian Mundweiler, been to Iceland, obviously, with Annie, BKG, Frederick. So been around quite a bit. And then hoping to go to the CrossFit Games. Like no one from Europe could go. Like no seminar staff went, no employees from Europe went. But they got me my ticket, they got me my hotel and said, we're working on it. I'm like, okay. So I was supposed to leave on Saturday, games week starting on Monday. And late Wednesday night, I got the confirmation, okay, you can go. Like I got the exemption letter. I was like, oh. And I literally got on the plane like got my boarding pass like 2 minutes before they closed the whole manifest of the flight. So it's quite a hectic flight. Time to get into the flight, but
So was that the
you know,
Wednesday, the
that was a
week before the
Wednesday,
games, or
the
the
week before
Wednesday
the
that?
games,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
week
okay.
before the games, yeah. And then I flew out Saturday. I was Sunday morning. Sunday morning I flew out. I was there
Okay.
Sunday evening. So, but yeah, that was it's a great way to top off exciting season, to say the least.
Yeah.
And it was fun, and I never want to replicate this year because it's
I don't think a lot of people do.
no, no. It's been one for the history books for sure.
So you've continued to work with CrossFit. Was that, your contract with them, was that leading up to the games and then to the end of the games, or have you continued to work and do some things after?
Well, that contract ended mid August, but then I just had a bigger contract for them. So I went on a 10-day trip with Eric Rosa, who's obviously the CEO and owner of
Yeah.
CrossFit, Gary Gaines, who's the global affiliate manager, our new president, Jason Dunlap, and a few other people from like senior people who went to Europe to like visit different boxes. We visited 7 countries in 8 days.
Jeez.
And just like flew around Europe to meet seminar staff, meet coaches, meet box owners, and yeah. So I did that and filmed the whole thing, and I'm working on those episodes right now. But CrossFit has a lot in the works, so it takes a little time to like get through the review process.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I'm working on right now, and then yeah, before we know it, the season starts again.
Yeah. That's coming up quick.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see these episodes with the I guess the higher ups at CrossFit. I think that Eric Rose has done a lot to change the landscape of the company and the sport since he's come in, but we haven't seen him in front of the camera all too much since he came in. I mean, he did a little bit at the very beginning. I don't think we really saw him even that much at the CrossFit Games, but
No, we talked a little bit. Well, obviously now it was a great opportunity for me to like get to know the CEO of the company and connect with him. And he said the CrossFit Games was amazing and kind of strange because he owns the company, he runs the company, but he's not running the games. Like
no.
if he wasn't there, the games will still be running. Like everything is in place. So and I'm using his words right now. He felt at some point like obsolete. Like where do I go? Like what's my role here? And I get that. Like if you're used to like having a billion things to do, and all of a sudden you're in the midst of the biggest thing CrossFit has to offer, and well, I don't have to do anything. I get why that will feel kind of weird. But he said he enjoyed it, and had a few chats with him at the games, and it was yeah, it was cool. It was cool to get his perspective on everything and where he sees the sport, where he sees the just the methodology and everything going. But I feel calm and I feel confident after. I feel calm and confident after spending 8 days with him. Like CrossFit is going to be okay. That's my takeaway.
I like that. And I know as soon as he took over, there was a sense of there was a real change within the CrossFit community.
Yeah.
And we started to see a little bit of that return this year and the build. And I mean, some of this too has to do with COVID and just, every location is different and what their regulations around gyms and that are. But we started to see the increase in participation and some of the energy come back into the sport. After a kind of a weird 2020 season and changes there. We saw a huge uptick with the changes, especially with Noble coming into 2021. But a lot around the community has seemed to improve.
Yeah, I mean, it's all like perception is reality, and it's all about how we view the leadership and how we feel stuff is going. And even though the world is still, things are not back to normal, but
No.
if we change the attitude and change the vibe around CrossFit, and all the negative stories are going away, and what we needed was, we needed the CrossFit Games that we got. Like, that CrossFit Games is, and I've yet to hear anyone say anything differently. Obviously, our common friend Patrick Vellner might disagree, but it was an amazing CrossFit game. No, Pat would agree. It was an amazing CrossFit Games, and the whole attitude and the atmosphere there was just amazing. It was just what we needed to kind of. COVID isn't done by any means, but it felt like, okay, we're back. Let's start here, and this is the starting point, and let's move forward and let the past be the past.
Yeah. Hey,
but if Pat could kayak, it might have been a better weekend.
Oh, we don't need to get too deep into that one. Let's go back a little bit. How did you get your start with CrossFit, or how did you get your start even in this industry?
Well, the industry starts a couple of years earlier. So I went to TV school in Denmark. Took a pretty classic route. Like, I was an assistant to an editor, and then all of a sudden he let me like do more and more work. So I became an editor. I did a few assistant jobs as a camera guy, like doing live sports, like pulling cables and setting up cameras. And then all of a sudden I got a chance to be a camera operator at a soccer game, or football, whatever you call it in Canada. And then it kind of just grew from there. Became a senior editor, and did more and more of that. And then 2012, CrossFit had regionals in Copenhagen, and I just started doing CrossFit. I came from a background of doing like biking and endurance running. So I went to regionals and I signed up as a volunteer. My wife at the time was furious. It was like, you're going to work 12-hour days without getting paid? And like, no, it's a good thing. I didn't believe it, but and she didn't believe me. She's like, whatever. But it was the best decision of my life, by far. Came to regionals. CrossFit had sent over some people, and they sent over the head of, I think he was head of media at that time, Tony Budding. Dave Castro was there as well. I didn't speak too much to him, but most importantly, they sent over Tyson Oldroyd, who is today my boss and my best friend. And we just connected, and I said, hey, would love to do some stuff for you guys, if I can send you my resume and stuff. And he's like, no, hey, do a workout demo. And you remember those?
Yeah.
It's like workout of the day. They didn't want every day. So I did a workout demo at my old gym, and I did some profiles for Frederick Geddes had qualified for the CrossFit Games that year for the first time. So did a profile on him, and it just grew from there. And then they started having me out for the games and regionals, and my role just increased more and more up until 2018. And then some stuff happened. And
so for those who are listening, who don't know what happened in 2018, is CrossFit fired the majority, if not all, of the media department.
Yeah, almost all of it. So he basically did. He snapped his fingers, and all of us were gone. And that was a strange time. Actually, the 2018 games was interesting. The documentary is coming out. I just want to give a little plug for that. My dear friend Mariah Moore is working on that. It's coming out soon. That's going to be great. I've seen some stuff and it looks amazing. But that was one of our biggest years ever. But actually, Tyson had called me a few weeks prior to the games to basically, he left me a voice message saying, hey, like, some stuff is happening. It's pretty messed up over here, and we can't really have you out this year, because I was going to get fired the week after games. So I pushed my phone and I deleted the message without listening to it. And I called him back like a week later. It's like, hey, what's up? I'm really excited to come out. It's like, didn't you get my message? No. What'd you say? It's like, all right, never mind. And had I listened to that message, I wouldn't have gone to the games in 2018.
Oh wow. So he had
I
pretty
never
much
heard of
said
it.
like, don't come.
He basically said I shouldn't come. Like he basically said it's not going to happen. He he still can't remember, and I obviously don't know. But he said maybe he said I could come and just be a spectator or whatever. But like
Yeah.
everything was going to hell at that point. So yeah,
Oh wow. And then you just went anyways, and you still did the same job. Like you still were on the field
yeah,
producing content.
because that's what Tyson does. Like he takes care of his people.
Yeah.
He always does that, and we had an amazing games. Sunday night we went out to dinner after the finals, and the games was
Mhm.
over. I sat at the table, and I have photos of this. I sat at the table, and I'm like all happy. We're having drinks and beer, and it's a lot of fun. I'm the only one at that table who doesn't know what's coming. Everyone
Oh,
else knows it's gonna explode on Monday, and I'm like happy-go-lucky. I have no idea what's going on because I'm
yeah.
not like in a circle. And they all said like it was kind of nice to have me at that table because I was just like rambling on and having a good time. And they had all been like super depressed about what was coming, so it was like a
Yeah.
nice distraction. Um, but yeah, strange times for sure in 18.
So that's a really cool story because it was not knowing that would have changed the whole mood of that entire experience over that week
Yeah,
or 10 days for the whole
yeah.
team.
My roommate knew. He kind of knew, which was strange. But looking back at it, I kind of get it. I can see some stuff with some conversations we had where it's like, where had I known, I was like, oh, that's why you were feeling where the way you were feeling, acting the way you were acting. But it's super strange to go back and look at it. And also, I feel like everyone thinks it's like the best CrossFit Games
Yeah.
uh, ever, 2018.
That was an outstanding year.
Yeah.
That was actually
Again,
the first time I went to
maybe
the
not
CrossFit
Pat
Games.
because he almost killed himself, but like,
I mean, some of those storylines, not to get too deep into CrossFit Games, but some of the storylines from that 2018 CrossFit Games were amazing. Like there were so many cool things that took place that day, from the
yeah,
marathon row to the Cargonetic incident. There's a
yeah,
lot of really cool things that happened. So, I mean, that at the time, that was the peak of the CrossFit Games
yeah,
ever.
yeah. Even from programming to like, yeah, all of it was just that day one where you did the CrossFit Total. You had the um what was it, the crit
30
that
muscle
year?
ups.
You started with the crit, the bicycle,
Crit.
and
Yeah, 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 yeah.
again, we're not bashing on Pat here, but um, but like Pat being the favorite, like crashes in the first on one of the first rounds, and
Yeah.
30 muscle ups, the CrossFit Total, and the marathon row. Just it's just iconic programming. So it's good to see that forgotten year come back, and I'm really really excited about that. And I think that's going to lead well into getting CrossFit back into these documentaries and like revamping the whole media team and how
Yeah.
people view CrossFit as a media company.
And I mean, you're already seeing it with the Miles to Madison content that CrossFit's putting out right now. It feels like some of the highlights of what we saw in the past that kind of went away for a few years there.
Yeah, that has been a lot of fun to help produce those Miles to Madison. It's obviously it's been super hard this year because we're with so many limitations on what we can do and what we can't do.
Yeah.
Um, like I had to go to Iceland with like a 5-day quarantine, so I had to sit in my room for 5 days before I could go shoot.
Oh,
Um, yeah. So, but it's a lot of fun stories that one day I can tell my grandkids, I guess. But yeah, like I said, don't wanna do it this year once more. Like to have a
yeah.
little bit more freedom in terms of movement and where I can go.
Yeah. And are you starting to see a little bit more freedom for travel in Europe anyways?
Well, yeah. So, well, in Europe we're good. I can go anywhere in Europe. UK is still kind of weird, but UK isn't within the European Union anymore.
Right.
In 3 weeks, I can go to America. Um,
Okay.
yeah, exactly 2 days after Rogue Invitationals. so I can't go
Oh,
to that. But hey, it is what it is. But hey, I'll see you. I'll see you in Miami in
yeah.
January.
I plan on being at Rogue, so
Yeah,
I'm gonna miss you there. But yeah, Miami in May or in January sounds
in
like a nice
January.
little.
Yeah, and then obviously I can go to Dubai in December. So looking forward to that. But yeah, now it's getting better. Like I feel like everything's getting better, but patience is a lot of patience is needed because it's getting better, but it still also takes time for the economy to reboot and for companies to truly believe in the fact that we're back and we're working again. But competitions just started up in Denmark again, which was really nice. We had our first competition in 2 years, a year and a
Yeah.
half. Just the
Is
British
that the
Classic,
Butchers?
where I was,
Yeah.
so I was head of media there, and I was in charge of the live stream, which I've
Okay.
never done before, but it worked. But that was really cool. We had some big names. We flew in Roman Grenikov and Ilin.
Yeah.
We flew in James Newbury and Karen Porter. Frederick Gideus was there, like hometown hero. Andre Houdet was going to compete, but his partner got COVID.
Oh.
We had a lot of big names there, so which was really cool to see.
Hey guys, Justin here. Just a reminder, like and subscribe down below for more content coming soon from WODProof and the Difference Makers. Nice. And did it feel like everything was kind of back to normal and the vibe of the event was back to being kind of
It was at full capacity, and just I remember at the final event I didn't need to be in the truck producing anymore. They kind of got it, like what
yeah,
I wanted. I just stood there watching the jumpathon
yeah,
in the arena. I was like, and I'm an emotional person, but it's like that felt good. It felt like
yeah.
okay, let's move forward. Let's look towards the future instead of getting hold up on how rough everything has been. That was a good
Yeah.
feeling.
I can echo your sentiment there. There was a moment where I was standing on the sidelines of the CrossFit Games doing media, and I was just shooting for WODProof, and I had this weird like calm come over me, and this like sense of like okay, like we'll be okay. Like this is
Yeah,
we're getting through this all.
yeah. That's how I felt like that whole season. Like it was like the culmination of just being there, being in Madison. I don't know. Did you take that photo of me sitting on the turf?
Yeah, yeah. I think that
Yeah,
was
it was
me.
like that. That photo is like that's the whole experience for me, because like that was my whole year encapsulated right there. So thanks a lot for that.
Oh no.
However, I got a lot of backlash from it because Dave Casper didn't want us sitting on the turf. So everyone at CrossFit got an email the next day. I saw some camera guy sitting on the turf without his camera. Like you can't do that. And I
Oh.
posted that photo, and everyone was like, "Are you the reason we got that email?" And I'm like, "Yeah, probably."
Sorry, but hey,
No, don't worry about it. It's not your fault. But yeah, that's how it felt. Like the CrossFit Games felt like full circle in some ways, and I felt like the athletes had the same feeling.
yeah.
It was there was such a great vibe between the athletes
Mhm.
behind the scenes, and obviously I know a lot of them very well, but it was just a really cool. It was cool and it was different, and there wasn't this. Obviously, they're competing against each other, but there was still this camaraderie. Like, okay, we're all in this together, and let's beat the shit out of each other when we're on the competition floor. But behind the scenes, it was more friendly than I've ever seen it before.
Oh, really? That's interesting to
Yeah.
hear. When
Um,
when you're behind the scenes like that, how do you decide on kind of some of those moments to capture and like what not to capture? Were you allowed to shoot behind the scenes?
I was fully allowed. I was allowed
Yeah.
everywhere.
Okay.
So I could go everywhere, and if I wanted to go like to an athlete's hotel room, I would just text them and say, "Hey, can I come over?" So basically, what I did, I talked to the director of the documentaries and stuff, and said, "What are we focusing on?" And they
Yeah.
had a list, and I pushed back a little bit and said, "Well, maybe we need to include this guy. Maybe we need to go here." And so basically, I just tried every day to talk to everyone on my list, and also always be aware of the story, what's developing. Like if I told you before the games, like we really need to focus on Guy Majeros, like, oh, like we know who he is, we've seen him on Instagram, but it's not like, well, he's not gonna win four events, like relax, like I think so.
At least
But
3.
once you see it, you kind of like segue over and make sure to cover him. But obviously, so on my list was Pat and Brent, obviously, and Justin, and Janikowski at BKG, and then I had some other people that like Chandler Smith, who we dropped because we knew like, okay, it's not happening. We had Noah on there, but found out like, well, it's not going to happen. So you just figure out like, okay, this is not going to be the story, and you just you move on. Scott Paincheck, but we kind of kept him because of the story developing, and we had Saxon a little bit, but then we moved him up. So it's like it's constantly moving, and ideally we would have more shooters, but it's also very important so my job is super important. It's super important in my job to know these people and to have a good relationship with them, because this is the most vulnerable time of their year. This is like let's say a guy like Pat, like this is his biggest, if you look at his budget for the year, this is going to be the biggest income opportunity of the year.
Yeah,
without a doubt. Like he didn't win, he took second, still a lot of money, and the sponsor stuff on top of that. So he can't match that, even if he wins Dubai or wins Rogue. Like it's still the biggest one. So he has to trust me, and he has to be calm and know that I'm not going to overstep his boundaries, or at least know that he can, without saying anything, let me know to piss off and come back later. So kind of knowing the athletes and knowing like respect their space, but they also know it's like a give and take. They also know, well, I have to be here. Like Pat said, event 6, 7, 8, like that's where he lost the CrossFit Games. Well, I'm sorry, buddy. Like you're a good friend of mine, but I kind of have to be right in your face after you fucked up on those events, and he knows that, and I know that, and it's like this back and forth, and especially with Pat, like Michelle just gave birth recently, and I was like having breakfast with at the hotel with Pat and Michelle and his parents, and that's a very vulnerable situation. Like I'm there with the camera, and she's breastfeeding, and he's a new dad. And it's like you have to trust the person in that room. Like you're not gonna let some random camera guy in there. So it's very private and intimate, but I think that's what's unique to CrossFit. Like you're not gonna see an NBA documentary where someone gets to hang out in LeBron's hotel room. Like this is not gonna happen.
No.
So that's been that was kind of cool. I have a story from another Canadian. So I went to the strangest Canadian you got. So I went to my favorite, Brent Fakowski, went to his
the
Airbnb.
strangest Canadian you got. I like the way you put that.
And you can quote me on that all day. But so I went to his Airbnb, and Brent is very meticulous. He does stuff the way he does it, and I love it about him. So prior to that, I'd just been with O'Keefe and GoWatt at a seminar Fraser was holding, hard work pays off seminar, and they gave me a T-shirt, and I was running out of T-shirts because I was like sweating through 3 T-shirts a day. So I had on my Nike hard work pays off T-shirt. I went into Brent's place, and his coach, Mitch Cinnamon. Mitch. What's his name? Mitch Bernard.
Mitch Bernard.
Of course, Mitch Bernard. He's looking at me. He's like, "Why are you wearing that shirt? You want to say something?" And what do you mean? And Brent comes in. Yeah, buddy, you can't wear that shirt. Not here. I won't do the interview then. And I'm like, "What do you mean? It's Fraser." But he's not even competing. And Brent just looks at me and says, "But he's still the enemy." So Brent makes me take off my shirt, and I'm sitting in his room shirtless
He
with
didn't
my
even hook you up
camera.
with a Fikowski shirt?
No, but then Mitch comes over and like throws a Fikowski shirt in my face, and they're having the time of their life, and I'm like super confused. Are they being serious? And like, because Canadian humor and Danish humor are kind of the same. It's like a little bit dark and weird,
Yeah.
and it was so much. But it turns out that after I left, Mitch had said to Brent, like, if we ever have to have media, I want that guy. Like, I want that guy to interview you all the time. But you know, that's a relationship we got to have.
Yeah.
In order to get so close to the athletes, because it's and I can't do that with everyone. I've never had that rapport with Fraser.
Yeah.
He scares the shit out of me, to be honest.
Okay.
Not anymore, but he used to when he was
Mid
competing.
competition or just in general?
Just no, not now. Not now. He's like
Yeah.
tons of fun. But mid competition, he was like, and I think he scared the shit out of all the athletes as well, which might have worked in his advantage.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you kind of learn how it goes, but it's also like I was in Spain filming with Lucas Hochberg, and he blew his whole season, but I'm there to film it, good or bad.
Yeah.
Like I'm not there to tell the success stories. I'm there to tell all the stories. Frederick Gideus failed to qualify. I was filming that. Adrian Mundweiler had patella issues and almost didn't qualify, and you know that's part of the job. And you know, in about 2 months, I'm gonna film the most talked about athlete who hasn't competed in 4 years. So I'm gonna be right in Ricky Gerard's face and see, like, you know, and my opinion on that, I'm not gonna voice here, but you know, rules are rules, and he's back, and
Yep.
I'm excited to see him, and I'm excited to see the reaction of the other people when he's back.
I think the Ricky Garard story, and a lot of people, I mean, we can get into this if you want, but a lot of people, you know, have their opinion of what happened and what's going to happen going forward, but that's one of the most interesting stories that the sport has seen in a very long time. And people are mad because they're telling this story, but it's a story to bring attention to the sport, and it's controversial, so it gets news, it gets attention.
Yes, there's an old news saying from like when you do a news production, if it bleeds, it leads. So you start with, and that's the way it works. Ricky is a good story. In essentially, CrossFit is trying to generate as many hits and likes and comments and views as possible as any other news company. And Ricky is the biggest news. I'm still waiting to see who's going to be competing against him. I would love to see Brent. I know Brent is coming, but I would love to see Pat come as well. But you know, and I'll voice my opinion. I'm totally fine with that. I know Ricky. I haven't talked to him in 4 years, but we had a lot of talks that year. Ironically, you can't be mad at someone who has he's following the rules. I don't know if he's following the rules. Everyone's saying like, well, he's just been using the past 4 years. Like, how do you know that? Like, that you can't judge people without a proof. He's done a sentence. That's the name of the game. And hate, then be mad at whoever makes the rules. If you want lifetime bans for people, then okay, then do that. Like, it's the same in any other sport. Like, there is a rule. It's the same in society. If you go to prison, like there is a road to redemption, and people are saying stuff like, well, he hasn't been acting humble and stuff. Humility and stuff has nothing to do with it. Like, you can act however you want. Like, then you can say you don't like the guy. That's different. But he's done his sentence. He's paid his dues, and now he's allowed to come back in. And that's the way it is. And I hate to have arguments that's uneducated. When a lot of people saying, oh, I think he should be tested every week for the past 4 years. Okay, sure. A test costs around $2,000. That's 4 years. That's around 200 weeks. That would be $400,000.
Yeah.
Who's paying
Just
for
to test
that?
one
Where's
athlete.
the money? Just one athlete, and you don't want to do that. And why is no one angry at or accusing Fikowski? Vellner, who almost beat him that year. Like
Yeah.
anyone, anyone in the top 10, Justin Medeiros, Guy Harris. I don't care who it is. Like, why are we? What's the basis for accusing people if you don't have any proof?
Yeah.
And yeah, it would be great if we could test these people around the clock, but it's just not how it works.
No.
People have to understand the economy and the cash flow of CrossFit, and there's just not enough money to go around. We can up the price for the Open to $2,000, and we'll all be good. Like, but
Yeah.
it's uneducated, and it gets a little boring when people just saying we should just test more and CrossFit needs to partner with WADA or whatever. It's not how it works.
I compare this to sports. In other sports that have, athletes have received PED bans. Look at baseball. Baseball is a good example. Alex Rodriguez, baseball player, received a ban for half a season for PEDs.
Yeah.
Came back,
And he took all of
them. Yeah. But came back, did his sentence, then popped again and had a year off.
Yeah.
So he had 2 major suspensions, if not more.
In the middle of that, he signed the biggest sports contract in the history of sports.
Yes. And he came back, and like, there's a lot of hate towards Alex Rodriguez, but he's still one of the greatest baseball players of all time. He popped twice, received a full season ban, and still came back and played and finished his career.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you got a guy like David Ortiz. The same thing happened to him, where he received a major ban, came back, and he's one of the most beloved players in Red Sox history.
Yeah.
And he received I believe it was a half season suspension for PED use.
Yeah. And it's to me, it's strange. Like, I have a hard time dealing with I'm into cycling. I've always been into cycling, and
Yeah.
So obviously, like Lance Armstrong is without a doubt the greatest cyclist of all time. And people are like, well, he used a lot of stuff, but sure, but he's still the best. And everyone else was using, and that's not an argument against it. It's just like you have to get some perspective sometimes, and understand the sport. Like, baseball has obviously been pretty bad. Hockey has been pretty bad. But people are bitching and moaning about Ricky Gerard only getting 4 years. In the NFL, you can get a suspension. You get 4 games
for PEDs.
Yeah, 4 games. I mean,
yeah,
that's like, take that, and that's the biggest sport in terms of like financially. That's the biggest sport. Patrick Mahomes is best paid athlete in the world, even higher than Lionel Messi. So, and people lack perspective, and they only see like muscles in terms of that. It's way more common than people think. And if there's money, there's always going to be cheaters. It's the same in the stock market. It's the same in the in the financial world. There will always be cheaters, but I think CrossFit is doing what they can to within the realms of possibility. And if someone has a solution to how should CrossFit do better, text me, and I will make sure, and I guarantee this, I'll make sure this goes to Justin Berg. If you have a good solution, a viable solution that is financially solid, I will make sure that goes to the top of the food chain. But
we'll quote you on that.
Go right ahead. I'm listening. Like, it's easy for people to be mad on the internet, and that's what that's what the internet's for, apparently. But yeah, it gets boring when people just screaming at each other without having any sort of solution.
Yeah.
No, we got sidetracked, but
I know we got a little sidetracked, but coming back to it, like, I love the way you guys tell stories and follow these athletes around and have access. Like, that's one of the best things to me about the sport and about the productions that come out of the sport is you get access, you get behind the scenes access, you get a little bit more close than you would ever get with a baseball player, an NBA player, or anything like that. And that helps to engage with the athletes and helps to create brands for the athletes and the sport that goes beyond just, on the field. And I love that
Yeah,
about this sport.
I think yeah, that is that's one of the biggest things we do, and there's still room for a lot of room. I know Keith talked about this on his podcast. We're still just getting started, and
Yeah.
there's still a lot of room to grow in this sense, and find more ways of well, find more earning possibilities for the athletes.
Yeah.
But the media, and Eric Rosa knows this and recognizes this. Media is where it starts. Like without the media, there's no eyeballs on it, and without
Yeah.
eyeballs, there's no money. Um, why is NFL the highest paid and soccer the highest paid sports in the world? Because they got eyeballs. Like,
Yeah.
and so it all starts there. But essentially, without at some point without a TV deal, CrossFit will never be a fully professional sport.
Yeah.
And but like I said before, I'm pretty sure we're gonna be okay. I feel
Yeah.
like the people in charge are they got it. Like they know what to do, and it's not something that's done overnight, but they're moving in the right path.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah,
Let's go back to you a little bit. You travel so
yeah,
much. How do you kind of reset after a long day of travel or a long day of shooting? Like, what do you do to kind of come down from, just the excitement of the day or the fatigue of the day?
yeah. I can talk most recently about the games. The
Yeah.
games was highly emotional for all the athletes and people there, and it's super intense, and you're giving everything you got of yourself, as the athletes are, but also the media guys. We're doing everything we can in those 7 days to just 8 days, because we're doing post interviews on Monday.
Yeah.
And it was a lot this year. Without giving too much away, I've seen Brent Fikowski cry. Like, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Like
Yeah.
it's that's a first.
Yeah.
But it couldn't have been better. But once it's all said and done, like, I have nothing after that. I had nothing left. It was I was completely drained. I didn't want to see anyone, didn't want to talk to anyone. But I think it's okay to just, I go very much into myself, and spend a lot of time processing. And I like to ride my bike. I
Yeah.
get into nature and ride my bike and just let it all process. And how I wish I could have taken a few days off, which I didn't because I had to work. But then I like to edit, because when I edit, I'm by myself and I'm just like there and no one's talking to me. Um, but I do a lot of stuff like during the games. I do meditation. I exercise every day at the games, even though we start early and finish late. I always find time to go for a run, just to clear my head and do my breathing exercises, because I feel like that's super important. And also, like, in this whole space, like, you and I are in the same boat somewhat times. Like, now you're doing the podcast, but and maybe you got some stuff lined up, but you can't tell me who's going to pay your bills in February. You
No.
don't know that. Like,
No.
and if you talk to a random person on the street saying you have no job security 2 months from now,
Yeah.
that would scare the shit out of 99% of the people. But and it also scares the shit out of a lot of freelancers sometimes, and that can create anxiety and lead to depression. And I promise Comporter, I would say this, like, because he's been very vocal about mental health. I think it's important to talk about. Yeah, the CrossFit Games is fun, and we post a lot of cool shit on Instagram, and we know all the athletes, and that's great. I got Rich Froning's phone number, awesome. But at the end of the day, that's not paying the bills. Like,
No.
it's hard, and it's insecure, and all of a sudden, if the phone doesn't ring, you're in a lot of trouble. And depending on, like, you just had a gym that you um that you don't have anymore, but there's a lot of, like, responsibilities, and to make make money, and that can put a lot of pressure on a person. And I think that's that's the backside of the glory that people don't talk about. Like, it's always highlights, and it's rainbows and fairy tales and Instagram, and it's all good, but it's not always all good. Like, we just went through COVID, and that wasn't fun. But like, I'm a content creator. Okay, of what?
Yeah.
What do you what content? And you see people like doing different stuff, like just trying to find a way. But I do feel like people found ways, and they well maybe you only see the people who actually found ways. I bet there's a lot of people who just like had to close their business, had to stop doing their passion, and just figure. Yeah, I think it's been rougher on a lot of people, and it's the same as I've been lucky. I've always had like I can always fall back on editing and do a lot of editing,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's not always super easy. But I try. I spend a lot of time being working on my mental health and make sure I stay stable, because essentially, if this doesn't work, it's a podcast and I'm pointing, which is super stupid. If the mind doesn't work, like nothing else matters. So I spend a lot of time on. I hate the word mindfulness, but I'm lacking a better word right now.
And that's what it is. It's being mindful and being, present in what you're doing, and giving yourself a little bit of clarity within everything you're doing. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it is tough being a freelancer and not knowing where your next paycheck's going to come from, or not knowing when your next big job is going to come in. And, part of it has for me been relying on my skills and my abilities within different sources. If it's coaching, if it's creative work, um, you know, a lot of COVID was me piecing things together. A lot of the last few months and years, ever since COVID hit, like it hit pretty hard for me, and
Yeah,
we've seen a lot of changes.
and but being the ability to adapt to changes and and overcome is super important for especially small business owners, which essentially freelance photographers are.
Yeah.
But I do feel like and for me, sometimes actually started before COVID. So I was fired in after the CrossFit Games 2018,
Yeah.
and everyone was fired, and I'm like, well, I got two options now. I can either accept this, I'll say
Mhm.
fuck it, and I'm not gonna accept anything. Well, I accept my recognition, but my termination, but there's nothing I can do about that. But that also means like um, now there's no media team, there's no
Yeah.
rules, there's no hierarchy.
Yeah.
So basically, the hierarchy was you got Ian Wittenberg, Heber Cannon, Marcin Sawyers, and Mariah Moore like on top in terms of that, and there's other people below that because they were the producers.
Yeah.
But now that doesn't exist anymore. That means it's all up for grabs. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'm gonna reposition myself.
Mhm.
So I went out and spent all my money and borrowed some money and bought a new camera, bought new gear, and just like, well, I was here. I was at some stage. Now I'm just going to go here, and it worked.
Yeah.
And the next CrossFit Games, I'm shooting the documentary for the Buttery Bros. Um, and it was all based off the fact that I just said, no, I don't accept this fate. I'm gonna change this. And before I knew it, I was in Dubai shooting that. That was like only a couple months later.
Yeah.
Um, but that's the whole deal. Like, you can sit back and relax and wait for stuff to fall in place, and you can bitch and moan about it, or you can like, well, do something about it. You can't really, but it's already happened. So act. Don't sit around and wait. And and then now the media team's coming back. I'm in a new position. I'm in a
Yeah.
completely new position, and I've positioned myself differently. And and like, I wasn't shooting behind the scenes. Someone else was, but now I'm doing it. and it just feels natural. But I also know I'm doing this because of what I did and the way I approached it mentally.
I was going to say, because you, like in 2018, when that all happened, there was still the 19 games that was normal before COVID, and you repositioned yourself entirely after
Yeah,
the 18 games, and you asserted yourself into like a completely different role just based on not accepting kind of the fate that of the cards that were given to you, and not just going
yeah,
back to an old industry, like going back to TV locally or something like that.
no,
And we talk about being a freelancer and not knowing where your next paycheck is coming from. And you didn't, you invested heavily in your craft at that time.
yeah.
Like,
But I think it always goes back to. Do you have that show, Lion's Den? Do you have that in Canada?
we have Dragon's Den
Yes,
here.
Dragon's Den. That's what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I always, when people come in, they have an idea, and this is my business, and one of the dragon goes like, "Are you full time?" And they go, "No, I'm still working as a PE teacher
Yeah.
somewhere." Like, and I always go back to that. So you don't believe in yourself, but you want me to believe in you.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like, so it all starts with yourself, and for me, it just started with me, and I believe that I could be in a different position, and I believe in myself, and I believe in myself. But it starts there. Like, if I don't believe in it, how the hell am I gonna convince someone to, hey, you should let me shoot this documentary? Because, well, I don't believe in it, but I hope you do.
Yeah.
But it's awesome. Like, if you portray confidence and you have confidence, it's yeah, Murphy's law, like the law of attraction, basically.
Exactly. Have
Yeah.
you ever just felt like sometimes you just have blind confidence? You're like, I got this. I can do this no matter what. Or
This um when it comes to CrossFit, like shooting behind the scenes this year, yeah, I do feel like that because I felt so prepared, and I felt like everything was just like leading um, um, towards this year, to shooting at the CrossFit Games. So there, I felt very, very confident. Um, but I always try to go into stuff with confidence because if I lack confidence, it's gonna reflect my work, and then
yeah.
if I don't have it, I'm pretty good at faking it.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, I'm not I'm hard to rattle, and I'm always open to try new stuff, but yeah, I've been on the opposite side of that. I've been like super nervous. I have absolutely no clue what I was doing, but
Yeah.
hey, it's worked out so far, and I turned 40 in a month, so
Hey, that's inspiration for everybody.
yeah.
And talking about what you do and asserting yourself into a situation, what are some of the most meaningful things, with your family and balancing your travel schedule? Like, how did you manage that with everything, family, travel? Like, you're all over the place all the time.
Yeah, that has changed. So I've had my ex-wife and I homeschooled our kids for a couple of years, which mean we could go travel. Like, we went to Waterpalooza, and we spent like a month in Miami. We were at going to West Coast Classic, and I had a few jobs, like just when the pandemic hit. So I didn't go to West Coast Classic, obviously, because it was canceled.
Mhm.
Um, so that has always been like, where my job goes, the family goes. So right after the pandemic started in March 2020, yeah,
Yep.
I got divorced shortly after that, and people are always like, "Oh, you failed marriage." No, I had a very successful marriage that ended, um, and we're still on good terms, and everything's better there. But that is one of the reasons, like, I can travel, and I have a very understanding and respectful employer that understands I can travel on the weeks when I don't have the kids.
Yeah.
And that's how I structure my life. I work my ass off, and um, then 5 days in a row when I have them, I don't work a lot, and I try to be present there. but that is one of the reasons I'm able to do what I do. If I had the kids full time, there would be a lot of sacrifice,
Yeah.
and I think that's some sacrifices I wouldn't be okay making.
Yeah.
But time will tell how it is moving forward. It's always like it's there's a lot of moving pieces, and I have a very understanding and a very understanding ex-wife who knows like Dubai falls on a weekend where I have the kids, so we swapped,
Yeah.
which I think other people who have ex-wives might be in having a less easy conversation about stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I there's always this term like, are you planning to fail? You fail to plan, or you plan to fail?
Yeah.
I structure my day very well, and I structure my weeks, structure my month, so that I'm okay with the chaos that is the sport we work in, and the chaos that is being a freelancer. Because I have all my other ducks in a row, so I can handle quite a bit of turbulence around that. But yeah, it's I think structure and planning is the most important for
Yeah.
me to make it work. And then, but it's also there's also sacrifice. Like I wish I had more time with my kids. Um, this year I had to leave for the games on my son's birthday, which was is how it was, and it's going to be the same next year. I looked at the calendar,
Oh,
but there's always problems. Has a very close cousin called solutions. And in 2 years, and I talked to the guys at CrossFit, and they said, in 2 years, just bring your son. We'll have him run batteries or something.
yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that he's gonna be 14 by then. Yeah, that makes sense. And it's like, okay, it might be the coolest birthday ever. Like he's been to the CrossFit Games um, in back in 14, so
Okay.
he met Froning, and yeah, it was yeah. And he's been to Waterpalooza, and so he's seen a few things.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, hey, you have a supportive team around you too that's saying bring
Yeah,
him out here. Like that's pretty awesome that
yeah,
the games team is they've got your back, and that's awesome to see.
yeah, yeah. That's some of the behind the scenes stuff you never see. I have a funny story about Waterpalooza actually, because we talked earlier about like some of the most memorable stuff. It's not
Yeah.
most memorable, but it was so you've been to Waterpalooza, and
Yep.
so Pat's doing the final event, and I'm like shooting Pat and Noah, and my son wants to watch it, and he can't see anything because he's short. And
Yeah.
my wife has my daughter, and she's sleeping. She can't do anything. I'm
Yeah.
like, what the fuck do I do? He's like this tall, and he
Yeah.
can't see anything. And I'm like, but I have to go work now. So then I see O'Keefe, and I'm like, O'Keefe, can I pull him in on like the inside of the like
The guardrail?
the rink? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, just keeping out to the side. I'm like, yeah, but it's still like barbells. What if he tries to come over to me? And like, I got a little worried, and like the event's starting, and I see Fraser standing there. He was just a spectator that year.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yo, Matt. He's like, what? Hey, here. I just gave. So he's sitting on Fraser's shoulder for the whole event.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm running around filming and working, and I come back and like, oh, thanks, man. Like, yeah, no problem. Because that's also the side of Fraser that the camera maybe doesn't show. Like,
Yeah.
he's an awesome dude. Like, it's like, and there's like no hesitation. Like, hey, watch my son. I'm gonna go work. And
That's
I have a photo of him like sitting on Fraser's shoulder, and yeah,
that's
but
awesome to see.
yeah,
Man. And I know people may not know, and go check out your Instagram page and you'll see some of this, but you've put up some work that your kids have done with photography and Photoshop. You said you
yeah,
taught you're teaching your son Photoshop, and he's already nailing some edits and things like that.
yeah,
And that's awesome to see. So everybody go check that out. There's some great
yeah.
stuff on there. But did they take interest? Did your kids take interest in what you
Um,
do, or how did that start?
well, my daughter is turning 7 soon, so she not as much, but the big one is like he's because he's been around, he's seen a lot of people, like he know all my coworkers. Like I said, he met Froning, he met Fraser. Like obviously he knows Frederick very well because he's my close friend. He knows BKG and Annie and stuff very well. But I think he's getting more and more like into it, and he's like like an extension of me, and like he's very excited. Like, so who's gonna win after Fraser? Who's the best in the world? And I'm like, well, that's difficult. I don't know, but
yeah,
in my opinion, Patrick Vellner is the best in the world. You think he's gonna win? Well, let's see. There's like five,
Yeah.
6 other guys who also kind of want to win, and he's really cool about it. And so yeah, he takes interest, and then I show him some photo stuff, and then he gets really into that. But yeah, I think I think essentially he's going to go down that route of being creative in some sense. But he asked me just today. He asked me, so when is it I can go to the CrossFit Games? And I had to say, I can't guarantee you're going to go to the CrossFit Games. It's an idea being thrown out there in a couple of years, but we'll make it work. But yeah, they love it because they've traveled the world with me, and obviously it's more difficult now after getting divorced, because then normally I would be able to go and she would take care of the kids. That's a little bit different now, but there's going to be new opportunities in the future, and I think they know that my job is, as hard as it may be sometimes, it's also a job that creates a lot of opportunities, and they see like, yeah, it's pretty cool. Like you can go do a lot of cool stuff if you know how to operate a camera.
Man, I couldn't agree more with that. On that note, we're going to wrap it up here. But before we go, where can everybody find you? Where can everybody, if they want to check out your work, tell them where you're at?
Actually, I have to pull up my Instagram. So my Instagram handle is NWR_productions, and that's mainly where I post my work. The issue is I don't own a lot of my work, so I post a lot of photos there, but I'm not really a photographer. I'm more a videographer. But other than that, go to games.crossfit.com and go there and watch the Miles to Madison. And I can't stress this enough. There's a new documentary coming out soon, 2018. Be excited about that.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much for your time. And
thank you, Justin.
I really appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Talk soon.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hit that like button and subscribe down below for more content coming soon from WODProof.